Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With your 2025 WWE Money in the Bank and WWE AAA Worlds Collide Instant Analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back once again after a long Saturday that included not one but two special WWE events. The Silver King and Vintage Chris Vanini are here to break them all down for your ear holes. We will deliver this performance-enhancing audio for the 749th time right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We have an absolutely loaded show for you, as we always seem to right here on Getting Over. So quickly, off the top, please do us a solid and remember,
it's all about Defy.
Because folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
It is time to be marks for the Silver King and Vintage. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You get full-length audio episodes. You get full-length video interviews and past video clips as well. All of that on YouTube at Getting Overcast. As we get into this double dose of instant analysis, we're going to kick it off, as we always do for these special shows, by the Silver King cracking open a cold one. And tonight, we have Hardstyle, a tangerine creamsicle beer from Angry Chair Brewing in Tampa, Florida, one of my favorite breweries in the entire state. An incredible drink. Excited to have this. Been saving it for a special occasion. Let me welcome Vintage Chris Vanini to the show. Chris, what you got over there?
Spotted Cow from New Glarus in Wisconsin. Been a minute since I had it on this show. I got to say, we've been doing so many pay-per-view instant analyses. I don't normally drink this much, but the last couple of months and moving forward, keep having to find something new to pull out.
What, one beer every 3 weeks is a high drinking amount for you?
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker. I'm always like, it's like every other Saturday, I got to make sure I have something in the fridge for the show later that day.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not trying to force you into alcoholism here, but it is just one drink. But if you can always pick something else, you're allowed to have look, Coca-Cola.
No, apparently I'm not, because I get made fun of if I pick an Angry Orchard.
Well, yes, that's a hard cider I'm talking about, but you can have a soda. You can have something else that makes a noise when you crack it open. It doesn't have to necessarily be an alcoholic beverage. I'm not forcing anyone to drink right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Nevertheless, Chris, a lot happened today, man, and we got an absolute ton to talk about. I would be remiss if I did not mention, though, the next time you hear from us, once this episode is in the can and you're finished listening and you're ready to move on to next week, will be episode 750 of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Coming on Tuesday, big WWE episode. We're going to have clearly a ton to talk about coming out of Money in the Bank, the Raw after Money in the Bank, a quick move into Night of Champions, which will feature King and Queen of the Ring on that show. But we will also be paying off a huge bet here on Getting Over. Vintage will indeed be rapping John Cena's entrance themes, and we'll save further details on that for you. Tuesday, episode 750. Of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. Chris, let's quickly move into this WWE Money in the Bank instant analysis. In case anyone is a first-time listener, we're going to break down every single match on the show, along with the go-home build from SmackDown. We're going to give you results, analysis. Silver King will give you a match grade at the end. And at the conclusion of the instant analysis, we'll go over our pre-show expectation grades, as well as our post-show grades. All of you had the opportunity to vote in those polls on Twitter at Getting Overcast. You can also, by the way, follow us on Blue Sky at Getting Over. I will also mention here, this SmackDown, in a rarity, contained way more go-home stuff than usual. So there is going to be a lot of build for some of these individual matches. The positive tip on that, though, Chris, is the go-home SmackDown was a damn good show. So the stuff we're going to discuss is actually interesting and exciting.
Yes, it also means we'll have less to talk about next week and more time for me rapping John Cena themes, to which I don't even fully know the details myself yet. So it'll be new for everyone.
I am not delivering those to Chris until Sunday to keep him on the edge of his seat, and also so he doesn't have too much preparation time for what the Silver King is going to demand as the payoff for this bet. But as I said, WWE Money in the Bank instant analysis. Before we go match by match, some quick conversation on the aesthetics. The advertising on this show, dude, was crazy. There were not only 9 ads on the canvas, but another on the briefcases like last year, and different ones on the barricade. Plus, 2 of the 3 turnbuckles in each corner now had ads with all 3 of them, including the WWE logo. I don't know if you noticed this, completely oversized. It almost looked as if someone screwed up in the printing process. That's how large these logos were. It's possible they were new style turnbuckles as well, but it was just really tough to tell. There was another big ad on the show. We're going to discuss that one individually in a little bit. The only other aesthetic element to discuss is something we forgot to mention entirely on the Ultimate Preview. This show was in the Intuit Dome, which was the home of Raw on Netflix, the debut episode. It's also the home of the Los Angeles Clippers. You'll remember they have those LED lights between the seats that can be crazy distracting. Well, that was the case in the opening match of the show. Luckily, they got turned off for the rest of the matches outside of the entrances. It made the entrances pop visually, but during that first match, it was way too distracting and annoying. And it actually kind of, I don't want to say it hurt the match, but it hindered the viewing experience from home.
Well, it also made it look like the arena was half empty.
Right.
At the beginning, which I think actually it kind of was at the very beginning of the show.
Los Angeles always has late arriving crowds due to traffic. And
yeah,
for anyone that knows what's happening in LA as we tape this, pretty busy day, let's just say, in the city for better when it came to WWE and worse when it came to some other things.
Well, and TKO is spanning the gamut on Saturday in terms of what they're doing in their various companies. But the lights being on, it like tells you, like when it fills in, it's harder to see every individual light. And so when you could see all the lights, it makes it look like there's nobody there. So that was all.
Well, that's the thing.
Weird.
Some seats were empty, but sometimes some other seats, they weren't, but people were just wearing black. And when you have the light on, it makes it look like no one was there. So there were definitely a bunch of empty seats in the opening match. They completely filled in over the rest of the show. But it looked like even more were empty, though, because of the lights, is the point.
Yeah, and because they did the drone shot, too, that shows you everything. So it's just weird to do that. But the ads were out of control.
Yeah.
Really bad, really distracting, really annoying.
Mm-hmm.
My brother kept texting me about it. Says it's really turning him off. It's just, it's too much, guys. Like,
it's too
just
much.
Take it down a little bit. Good Lord.
We expected some. We expected a lot. It's probably 33% more than we could have imagined. And that's when you go to that area, like when you get into the oversaturation of advertising, that's when it becomes problematic. Some we've come to expect it. We live in the United States. This is what happens. But the oversaturation, they've reached that point now entirely. I mean, there's not much more they can do except for put ads on the wrestlers' gear, like, you know, sports teams do, but sports teams don't have as much advertising everywhere else, amazingly.
Yet.
So it's, yet, at least to this point. All right, enough of that. Let's go match by match. We're going to start with the main event of the show, Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso against John Cena and Logan Paul. Nothing on the line here, but pride. Now on SmackDown, Cody and Jey dapped up backstage with Jimmy coming in to support his brother. They main evented Friday night, getting huge pops. Cena got loud 50-50 chants and his bonus announce for Mike Nash. That distraction allowed Paul to clock Jey with his knockout punch. They then hit Jey with an AA and a frog splash, while Cody took a title shot to the head pulverizer and a frog splash to boot. Logan held up the World Heavyweight Championship alongside Cena, who cut a promo about taking the WWE title home as Logan takes the other title to the top as the inevitable future face of WWE. Cena hit a bonus AA on Cody, with Logan again laying out Jey with a haymaker. Fans loudly chanted, "We want truth." So Cena grabbed the mic saying, "You can't handle the truth," which was an effing perfect retort. Logan's face dropped. This was a special wrestling moment where just everything goes right at the perfect time. He said the fans chant for quote unquote truth, but they're all liars. They chanted louder, "We want truth." He called them losers, saying winners write history, and the show ended. And you got to give credit where it's due. Pairing Cena and Paul was a genius move. This may have been the most concerted and consistent heat that Cena has gotten since the first Raw after he turned heel. And for the second show in a row, Chris, I thought he was nails on the mic. Really smart decision, not having either Jey or Logan speak. Cena completely carried this segment. I presumed that the truth chants were not planned necessarily as part of this segment. So that was an expert level, seemingly improvisational response from Cena in the moment. That's how I felt watching it live. It also made you wonder, given the volume of the chant, which didn't happen at all Friday night otherwise, whether WWE might have turned around and decided to keep truth on board. If not, my thought was at this time, this would be a massive unforced error because there's a lot of momentum behind this guy. Yeah, he's a 53-year-old comedy character, but a pop is a pop and over is over, and fans would go nuts for him if he showed up in TNA or AEW or wherever the case. Anyway, this was a fantastic go-home segment at the close of SmackDown. It does seem like Triple H has finally figured out these go-home shows ahead of premium live events. He used to struggle with these, but SmackDown was nails, and this main event was one of the reasons why.
Yeah, it was good. I would have liked just more between all of them because this all happened so quickly. It was a 2-week build for a match, and we didn't really get a chance to get into Cody talking about wanting to get the belt back, like all these things. It's what I said when it first got put together, which was like, wish we had a month of this,
right,
or just like to really kind of sink into it, because there's so much potential you could do with Cena and Logan and Cody and Jay. And I don't know where it's going to go from here, but yeah, it was solid. It was good. I just would have liked to have gotten, more of it.
No, it's completely fair. So going to Money in the Bank, there was nothing special in the entrances. Jay's gear matched that of Cody, which was pretty cool. There were loud "We Want Truth" chants for about 5 seconds after the bell. A bunch of dual chants for Cena. Traditional heel antics in this match, kind of singling out Jay, wearing him down. Cena got pissed when Paul tagged himself in, so he tagged back. They started a shoving match with Cena angry, saying he was trying to teach him, and Paul's like, well, teach me then. This gave Jay an opening for a Cody hot tag where he wrecked shop with a Cody cutter on Cena and a tope suicida on Logan. Rhodes still ate a haymaker and attitude adjustment combo for a broken fall. Paul tried the buckshot lariat. He completely slipped. Jay ate an AA. Cena took crossroads. Cody avoided a springboard splash to break it from Logan, who ate a spear from Jay upon standing, which was a really nice back and forth sequence. Logan stopped the bionic elbow, hit Pulverizer, but chose not to cover. Instead, he called for the drone and grabbed it while on the top rope, only for Cody to catch him with a superplex while he held it. Jay then flew in from off screen with an Uso splash. We didn't get to see either move live because of the drone camera, so we needed replay to see the full effect of it. But it was super unique, pretty eye-catching, all things considered. Cena delivered consecutive AAs for a false finish Cody kickout. Cena then cleared both fancy announce tables. Cody escaped an AA, and Jay speared John from one to the other. Logan took advantage with an incredible second rope springboard Asai moonsault, collapsing the table with Jay on top of it. It was the move of the match, no question about it. Cena delivered another belt shot behind the referee's back, only to suddenly get taken down with a Thez press from a hooded figure. It was R-Truth. He delivered a belt shot to Cena. The crowd went bonkers, and Cody hit Crossroads once for the win in 24 minutes. Incredible, Chris, that a main event match with Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, and John Cena, and for what it's worth, Logan Paul, he has some popularity, the biggest pop of the match, and perhaps the entire day, 6 hours of WWE programming, 10 matches, 53-year-old R-Truth returning to WWE. Do we even need to talk about the match? Okay, I guess let's talk about the match, and then we'll talk about R-Truth. It started...
Yeah, we'll talk about that first.
Yeah, it started slow and formulaic. That was the point. The latter half of this match, though, was far better, far more exciting. Cena seems to be finding his sea legs here. He's nowhere near the level at which he wrestled when he was full-time, but he's far better than many of his, let's say, most recent appearances. The shoving match with Cena and Paul, I would bet that sets up Cena's eventual babyface turn toward the end of this run. Will it suck that he ends up doing a match with Logan over his final run and not, let's say, Jacob Fatu or someone fun like that? Sure, but the turn back will hit. I'm on a tangent. Back to the match. It was solid bell to bell. Those two key sequences, including the stuff by the tables, it really leveled up the entire match. And the Truth surprise was just the cherry on top. The key, though, and I think it was lost by many, is that Rhodes pinned Cena here, presumably giving reason for a rematch at some point. It's not going to come at SummerSlam because they did announce that King and Queen of the Ring is happening, and they will get those number one contenderships. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. I'm at 3.75 stars, B+ for the match. Those final few elements created a crazy ending to the show. And like I said, it really leveled this up bell to bell.
Yeah, because look, this was a match that didn't have any stakes to it. Not really. On a show where you had 2 Money in the Bank briefcase matches, and technically opened the door to the idea somebody could cash in at the end of this match.
It did.
Which didn't happen. So the fact that that wasn't going to happen and there were no stakes, they still made something really entertaining and notable out of it. First, the intros. Do they normally do the intro with the spotlight and everything and all that stuff when it's a non-title match? Because it's the main event of the show.
I didn't even notice that happened. I was getting my dog water and going to the bathroom, so I didn't notice they did that. If they did that, then you're correct. They've only previously used the spotlight in-ring intros for championship matches. I don't think they've done it for main events that are not involving titles on the line. But to be fair, there were 2 champions in the match, so maybe that was the reason.
No, as it relates to stakes, I was thinking of that. I also wondered if Logan needs kind of a refresh in his gear and everything. It's kind of old. He's probably tweaked some things here and there, but the black and yellow and the headband and all that, I don't know. I feel like
I agree.
He needs to look different. It's a bit stale. The drone part for the suplex, that was awesome. That was so cool. To basically visually go through the experience of getting suplexed off the top rope and then having someone else land on you. That was cool. It was like they had to show the replay afterward and whatever, but that was just you don't see that kind of camera angle in production normally. Right. So really stood out, was awesome. The Logan suplex, the moonsault from the middle rope through the table. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In WWE. You want to talk about other promotions, sure. But I think of Shane McMahon's jumps off of there through a table and stuff like that. You rarely see something that crazy in WWE.
Wait, this is one of the craziest things you've ever seen in WWE?
Yes.
Mankind got thrown off a cell.
What? No, I mean in terms of a move. Not
I'll just be honest. It was a springboard moonsault. We see that.
Yeah, but
weekly.
The distance he had to get.
Oh, it was impressive.
And if you're off by a little bit, you're effed. That's really difficult to do.
Oh, let me be clear. It was impressive as hell. It was a difficult move. I don't think it was one of the craziest, most difficult moves we've seen. We saw 6 more difficult moves in the Chad Gable, El Hijo Del Vikingo match earlier on Worlds Collide, just in that match alone.
I have never seen that move done in WWE. The springboard moonsault. It's always jump off the top turnbuckle and do an elbow or do something. I've never seen it before, specifically in WWE. Anyway.
It was part of Chris Jericho's arsenal. It's the lion salt. It just was to the outside.
He didn't do it out the ring to the table.
No, I understand, but I understand, but it's the same move. It's just a springboard moonsault.
Nearly the same amount of air. Anyway.
Okay.
I'm also interested in that because that's the same table where Jay speared Cena,
right,
and didn't break the table. So was that the plan? What if the table had broke when Cena got speared? Do you not do the moonsault then? I'm just very curious how that works.
My guess is, I know you're in the middle of your breakdown here, but my guess is there's a release and they pull the release and then the table collapses.
That would make sense. I mean, especially with the new, reinforced tables, that would make sense, but still
cool. Yeah.
Pretty strong to hold up with Cena and Jey Uso doing a spear across it too. So I guess that's pretty good. But it all worked great. When I forgot going back to the drone camera, the ref left the drone in the ring. He checks on the wrestlers after he does that, but then he just gets up and the drone is still there. And I didn't exactly see where it went, but I thought he was going to try to move it or something. It just kind of stood there. And then the R-Truth attack. It was spoiled in the moment because you could see the dark skin on his lower back. And I was like, it's R-Truth.
Yeah, I know.
And so the mask reveal didn't quite get me as much, but still awesome. and the crowd reaction was great. And he pulled it off well. He pulled the mask off, like timed it well, and the camera got there and he turned. They nailed the production of that. So good, solid, really entertaining match that I think had a pretty high bar to get to make it feel like it was one of, if not the most entertaining thing on the show, on a show that had 2 ladder matches.
Yeah, it was a match that we kind of went into saying there's 4 matches on the card. This is the weakest one, right? Especially from like match quality standpoint, what it could potentially deliver. And to be the main event of this show, it really did have to kind of level itself up. And it did that. And honestly, it did that even without R-Truth. But the R-Truth did kind of add a lot to it. And it's funny that you said that about when he ran into the ring, because I had the exact same thought. You know, it goes through your head really fast. It's like, is that a shirt? Is that a t-shirt? Or is that, no, that's a skin. Oh, wait, who else could it be? Cedric Alexander? No, it's definitely R-Truth. Like that was the thought process I had. And it got ruined for me.
Your thought process is that Cedric Alexander?
Well, no, I was like, who else could it be? Who else could it be besides Truth? Like trying to not ruin it for myself. And I'm like, well, clearly, it's like Cedric Alexander. No, obviously not. It's R-Truth. Like, who else could it have been? I couldn't think of it. It's not Booker T. It's not Swerve Strickland. Like, once you see that on the lower back, you're like, oh yeah, it's clearly R-Truth. I was like, is there any way it could surprise me? There was no way it could surprise me. So on to Truth. Okay. Simply an outstanding moment in every regard. The chants all week at their loudest point about 20 minutes earlier at the start of the main event. Cena's incredible line, which sounded like improv, but perhaps was not an ad lib after all on SmackDown, perfectly hiding Truth by having him run in from the hard cam. And the removal of the hoodie, that's a 5-star A+ surprise. The larger conversation was whether we all got worked or WWE listened to its fans and pivoted, reversed course. After Money in the Bank went off the air, WWE promoted him not as R-Truth, but as Ron Killings. So did R-Truth actually get released only to be re-signed as Ron Killings, maybe at his request, possibly with a Legends contract? Did nothing at all happen and it was a pure work from the start? I reached out to several people after the show. I didn't get any replies before we recorded, but at this point, I lean on this not being a work at all. Truth got released, or not renewed. His contract was not extended. Superstars and employees made their voices heard internally. Fans made their voices heard externally. And WWE just straight up pivoted and brought him back in the most perfect way they could have. I believe it's the same situation as what happened with Drake Maverick. And if you remember from Tuesday's show, when I theorized, could Truth possibly come back if fans are loud enough? That was the exact example that I used. Furthering my belief to this end is what Cody and Kathy Kelly said on the post show about WWE listening to fans, given their response was immediate and overwhelming. And that's actually the exact verbiage that Kathy used, and I'm just going to play it. It's really short.
Since we thought we would never see him in a WWE ring again, but the response from the fans was immediate and it was overwhelming. Bring him home. Tonight, R-Truth's return was not just a surprise, it was a reminder of why we all love this. I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I just want to say, and I speak for the entire WWE universe, I am so happy to see my favorite part of every WWE show back. So welcome back, Truth.
And that's why this release was so stupid. I mean, she is getting emotionally worked up over a 53-year-old man who gets usually at most 3 minutes a show. But that is how much Truth is loved by his coworkers backstage. That is how much Truth is loved by the viewers who need that element of comedy injected into their professional wrestling. So I have little doubt that he was not renewed and then got re-signed, Chris. Simple as that. What do you think?
Here's the reason it wasn't a work. Because there was nothing ever acknowledged on TV that he ever left the company.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't pay attention to social media or the dirt sheets or wrestling media or whatever, you don't know what they're talking about. Because you last saw him on TV a week ago on SmackDown.
Let me make a quick counter. People hate when I interrupt you sometimes, but I just want to say, it could be, if I'm playing devil's advocate, the kayfabe 2.0 that we discussed on like the WrestleMania kickoff and how they played some of it real and some of it was, worked the entire time. That would be the devil's advocate argument to that statement. I'm just saying.
It would be, but it'd be stupid.
I agree. It would be.
if they had done the things we had talked about Cena kicking Truth out of the company, and then you bring him back and whatever, like if it was a work, it was a meta work, in which case those are dumb anyway. But so that's why I don't think it was, because if you're not paying attention, you don't know what these people are talking about when they say they brought him back. Like, what do you mean he brought him back? He wasn't God. I didn't know he was God. Like, you just think R-Truth is just showing up to beat up John Cena because of what happened to him 2 weeks ago. Like, that's it. And so it still works in that sense. One of my thoughts was, well, is his contract, at what point in June is it done? And is he just back for another one-off? Are they going to then run back the career versus title thing that we suggested that they do? I don't know where it's going to go. Leaning into the, hey, we listened to the fans and that's why we brought him back thing is interesting, because they kind of don't have those kinds of fans anymore. The ones who would chant CM Punk all the time, the ones who would protest various things and stuff like that. Like, WWE has very much over the last 5 or so years kind of conditioned its ideal fan who doesn't really question the company anymore. And so acknowledging, like, hey, we messed up, we listened to you, that's going to open the door now for that to happen for other people.
It will, and that's a fair point, but let's not forget, We Want Cody happened, and that was them listening to fans. That's true. And pivoting and doing it.
Yep.
And, to your point, to a degree, you're like, well, it didn't necessarily permeate. It kind of did, dude. Like, every single show, starting with Raw on Monday night.
There were only 2 shows.
No, there were 4.
Well, 3.
Raw, SmackDown, Worlds Collide, and Money in the Bank. On 4 different shows this week, fans chanted, "We want truth," and on some of them, what's up, a call and response. Now, every single time it was chanted, to be fair, it was like one chorus of it, and then it stopped. So like they would do "We Want Truth" 3 to 5 times, and then it would completely die. So it wasn't like "We Want Cody." It certainly didn't trend on social media the same, and fans weren't as vociferous about it. However, on 4 shows across multiple matches on each show, fans chanted "We Want Truth." And I know this because as we break down every other match that we're going to be talking about on this show, we have a lot more to get to. I'm going to tell you every single time it happened because I didn't know that he was coming back. So I was going to mention all these times where fans chanted "We Want Truth." So, now, to the other point you made, that thought went through my head as well, that maybe WWE did not re-sign him. They're just using, let's say, remaining dates on his current contract, or maybe they've extended him for 6 months just to give him a proper farewell. That way everyone's feelings are better about the entire deal. I don't have the details now. I do think that's plausible. Either way, this was proof sometimes bullying does work for the better. Paul Levesque was asked about this in the post-show press conference. He avoided the question. No one followed up, which for me is as problematic as never asking in the first place. I know you thought asking the question at all was enough. If you're WWE, I think you want to pat yourself on the back for listening to fans, just like you did with the "We Want Cody" pivot. On the other hand, maybe you're thinking, well, it's a black eye. We made that wrong decision in the first place. I guess for them, the latter was a bigger deal than the former. So they just decided not to address it, which I guess is their prerogative. They're not they are a publicly traded company, but they're not answering to fans like a sports franchise would, for example, like the New York Knicks or, the Miami Dolphins, whatever the case might be. I did also want to mention one more thing just to wrap this up. When Truth did return, or Ron Killings, when he returned, this is what commentary said, quote, "We thought he left the company." And someone goes, "Maybe no one told him." And then that's a good point. So I just thought that was a really funny back and forth right as something serious was happening in the ring. But Truth is back. We celebrate the angst and the vitriol that we spit on social media over the weekend on Tuesday's show. It still stands, but at least you don't have to wallow in it for another month or so.
And to that though, WWE Shop tweeted his shirt and said Ron Killings. And also Peter Rosenberg on the post show goes, "That wasn't R-Truth, that was Ron Killings." And so I don't know if that's like going to be like kind of not a rebrand or whatever you say. Are they going to go with Ron Killings moving forward? We'll see. Is he going to be edgier. Like
right? Is he
used to be back in
serious?
the day.
Is he going to be serious? And then that's not what people wanted, you know?
That's what I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what
it's
I'm
weird.
curious, because like we don't see a kind of a vicious side of him in a very, very long time, his character. So I'm very curious of different ways in which this will go. So I don't know.
It obviously won't happen, but this is a rare occasion, Chris, where a 53-year-old comedy character could theoretically win the WWE Championship and people would go crazy for it. Again, it won't happen. I don't even think he'll get a match. I'm just saying that's how over R-Truth is right now.
He is. I mean, trying to think of oldest WWE champions. Vince McMahon won it at one point.
Yeah. Bob Backlund won it when I thought he was really old, but he was probably just like 37 or something like that. Like I thought he was ancient when he won it, the Diesel Bret Hart kind of switch. But I think he was probably just like maybe in his early 40s or something like that. Anyway,
I don't know what you do now, because like Cody pinned Cena. R-Truth is back, and presumably he's only back for the Cena part of it. Cena's got limited days.
well, that's him getting even at a minimum. So that, you know.
Well, I can't imagine I beat you up in the match and then I'm just never going to talk about you again. That's the whole reason. I don't know. Could go. I have no idea where it's going to go, and that's interesting. Yeah. Also, the person who did ask the question, that was USA Today's Jordan Mendoza, wanted to shout him out for asking an actual question at the WWE press conference. Didn't follow up, whatever. I don't mind that part as much because it's a kayfabe thing, but I'm glad someone actually asked a pertinent question. Sometimes there's like a newsy thing and the obvious question is not asked. So at least it got asked.
Congratulations to me.
I don't have congratulations to you, so we'll just use that drop instead. Let's move to women's Money in the Bank. Rhea Ripley, Alexa Bliss, Roxanne Perez, Julia, Naomi, and Stephanie Vaquer. Starting with SmackDown. Jade Cargill backstage shared her plan to tear through Queen of the Ring and take gold. When asked about her relationship with Bianca Belair, Jade was interrupted by Charlotte Flair, who shaded Bianca and said she's the only queen. Tiffany Stratton sidled into the picture, getting a much bigger pop than both of them, which was kind of surprising. Before hitting the ring for a promo, she said she became the it girl of WWE 1 year ago at Money in the Bank, wouldn't let anyone get over on her, and then everyone entered for a scheduled match. There's not really much to say about this, other than that Jade's promo backstage was more natural than usual. That moved us to the 6-woman tag. Ripley, Bliss, and Vaquer against Naomi, Perez, and Julia. Naomi wore red gear with yellow caution tape on it, almost thumbing her nose at our talk about her hair color from this past week. We will talk more about that on Tuesday. Julia entered last, which speaks volumes, I thought, and she started with Vaquer getting heat by avoiding Devil's Kiss. Then she basically reversed Devil's Kiss on Naomi. Ripley got an explosive hot tag, hitting Razor's Edge on Perez. Bliss hit Julia with Abigail DDT. Roxy countered Riptide with a Tornado DDT. Straight up incredible sell by Rhea. Naomi dipped out, leaving Perez hanging for a hot tag, with Ripley hitting Riptide for the win after help from Bliss and Vaquer. It was the match and, at the moment, segment of the night. The crowd came unglued for this finish. They were all in, especially with the faces, Chris.
Yes. It's a thing you often do before the Money in the Bank ladder match. And so I get that, but the reaction Stephanie Vaquer and really kind of all three of these women are getting is really impressive, and a credit to kind of the build they have done for them. Also, sorry, one last thing I forgot to mention about R-Truth. The other reason it wasn't a work, they released Carlito on the same day, and you're not faking a release with a real release. That would be a very not good thing to do.
Well, it was announced that he wasn't being renewed, or not announced. It was reported that he wasn't being renewed, and I think he has another 2 weeks or a month left on his contract. But you're right. Yeah. You wouldn't do both in the same day. You wouldn't have Truth write that tweet, which is how it initially got out, if those things were happening simultaneously. It's great.
Yes,
it's a
great point. Yes, but back to the women's ladder match. Really good. It set the table for Saturday.
Yeah, the 6-woman, yeah. So to the ladder match, this opened the show with Ripley, Bliss, and Vaquer getting the biggest pops. Stephanie hit a nice double underhook driver, only to eat an X Factor onto a chair at Naomi's hands. Then she caught Rhea with Heat Seeker onto a ladder. Perez countered Razor's Edge from Ripley into a Hurricanrana, hitting a springboard moonsault into the ladder she landed on. Great sequence. She and Julia trapped Rhea in a ladder that kind of went into business for itself, slammed another into her before burying her under 5 different ladders ringside. Vaquer tried climbing the ladder with Julia on her back, only to eat a German suplex. Julia then did the same to Naomi while hanging with her knees on the ladder. Roxy and Julia dropped Bliss stomach first onto a ladder before their partnership quickly eroded as Rhea responded to destroy them. She Razor's edged Roxy into Naomi, and then electric chair slammed Julia into a balanced ladder. A tall ladder and perpendicular ladder were set up. Ripley ate devil's kiss into the ladder. Another perpendicular ladder was attached, leading to a stereo code red by Perez and Bliss onto Vaquer and Naomi respectively. Ripley and Bliss then combined for Riptide and Abigail DDT on Vaquer and Perez respectively. Naomi shoved Ripley and Bliss off the ladder into another prop in the corner, running up the ladder and grabbing the briefcase to win women's Money in the Bank. This was exactly the way this needed to end, with Naomi on top. There's an easy story to tell with her, Stratton, Cargill, and Belair all around the briefcase and the WWE Women's Championship on SmackDown. I wish the finish had been a bit more climactic. Pushing two faces off the ladder worked. It just didn't feel like it was the setup as the climax of the match when it happened. There were a lot of terrific spots here, and while the stereo ones did come across too choreographed, commentary actually had logical explanations both times. The crowd was strong throughout, but it wasn't at the point where it elevated the match. Roxanne was the easy MVP, with most others firmly tied for second. My most significant gripe was that Naomi might have gotten the least offense in the entire match. I understand the booking was for her to kind of come out of nowhere and steal it at the end, but that made her positioning fit the story, and it came at the expense of her being elevated by working a couple major spots in the match that put her over a little bit more. Vaquer was crazy over throughout, to the point that it stunned her during her entrance, and Ripley was fine aura-wise despite not prevailing here. Thankfully, she did not win this match. It was tamer than you would expect for a ladder match. No one did any legitimate high risks, probably because this was loaded with talent and every single woman involved is integral to future plans, especially with WWE Evolution coming up in a month. It was well wrestled. It just wasn't as chaotic as we have been conditioned to expect. Plus, the telegraphing aspects I mentioned, they just kind of took it down a peg. I expected an A match or better. That was my grade in my head kind of coming in. I figured this is what it's going to live up to. But I'm borderline kind of B plus, A minus. I think I'm at 4 stars, A minus right now. It was really good, a quality opener, not the best women's Money in the Bank match. And that is what I had expected.
Well, I'll say first, just for both of these matches have been done so many times. It's getting really hard to make them stand out, do something that hasn't been done before. And you also don't want to put somebody, especially the women, in too difficult a spot where somebody gets injured, which happens sometimes. So the bar is pretty high already on this stuff. I thought the match was fine. I thought it was solid. It was good. Most of the people got their time to shine and look good. Naomi didn't, but that kind of fits the whole point of the character too. Like, she's getting her butt kicked by Jade every time Jade shows up. She is kind of the Weasley type of heel who's going to sneak in and win things here and there. That makes sense for her. And for her to win the match that way, then I think fits what she's doing. And I'm okay with that. She was obviously the right winner. We both picked her. We've been praising everything she's been doing the last couple of months, other than the hair color. And it worked. You know, is this a match I'm going to go back and watch and be like, man, remember that match? No, probably not. But that's getting harder and harder to do with Money in the Banks anyway.
No, it's a great point. There have been 36 Money in the Bank matches in 20 years. So just to kind of explain what you're talking about and, you know, why we've gotten to a point where it's been so overloaded that's kind of difficult to see your way through. That's a lot of the same match and similar spots, and there is only so much you can do. That said, we saw in the men's match, which we'll talk about in a moment, that there are still things that you can do and you can be inventive. And we saw in the women's match last year, and I'm forgetting off the top of my head, obviously, but I seem to remember more electric elements that kind of boosted it up to another level. I've seen some people say that this match was like actively not good. I think that's plainly ridiculous. It just wasn't explosive and incredible, you know, visually as a ladder match like many would expect. But bell to bell, the quality of the wrestling, the work, some of the moves that were executed cleanly and safely, I thought it was a really high quality match. I will also mention this was the longest women's Money in the Bank match in history at over 25 minutes, which was a third longer than last year. Many of you will not remember, but on last year's show, we were highly critical of both Money in the Bank matches. They went like 16 minutes each, and we said, that is way too short. You're not able to get enough stuff in. People aren't getting their moments. It's a little too chaotic. There's no storytelling. That was completely remedied this year, not just in the women's match, but the men's. But 25 minutes, the longest by 1 minute, and the prior longest, in case anyone's curious, it was the Carmella redo on SmackDown. So the longest prior women's Money in the Bank match didn't even happen at a PLE, which I think is pretty interesting.
Question. Julia, Roxanne, and Stephanie, I don't know their history very much.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of them known for doing any type of high-flying stuff?
No.
So I think that hurts, too. Like last year, the winner was Tiffany, and she does stuff off the top rope. We also had Chelsea do that crazy spot out of the fall off the table spot. So I don't know if they just... I think Chelsea might have actually gotten hurt on that spot too.
There wasn't anyone in this match who they could risk taking big bumps. And that actively hurt the level to which it could get to because everyone was important and everyone needed to be protected. And it's kind of the opposite. We talked about it coming in. Like the women's match has the most star power probably of any women's Money in the Bank ladder match ever. And we said the men's actively did not. And we saw why you don't load these matches up with all your biggest stars, because then you can't take risks. And you need people who are able to take risks in these matches. So no, to your question, no, none of them do high flying. Julia is Joshi, very much strong style. Roxanne, can jump off things, but she just doesn't actively do that. And Stephanie does have, some high risk moves, but she's not a flyer. She's not someone like a Tiffany Stratton or even a Charlotte Flair, where you're going to get a lot of different moonsaults in one match. That's not really her arsenal. So to your point, the people in the match weren't really set up to succeed in a ladder match. I'll also mention, this was Vaquer's second match on Saturday, her third in less than 24 hours, and her fourth in 1 week. That's a workhorse schedule. And if I didn't fully say it, let me just kind of circle back also. Congratulations to Naomi, man. She seriously deserved this. Her level of work since returning has been sky high, especially since turning heel. And that caution briefcase, when she brings that out, is going to be awesome.
Yes. Also, she said in the press conference post show, she was with Big E. She kind of teared up. Her and Big E joined WWE basically at the same time. And the crowd was chanting, "I think you deserve it," or something to Naomi. And she tells them to shut up. And I loved it. It's like, that's exactly what you're supposed to do as a heel. Don't say, yeah, I deserve it, whatever. No, turn it back on them. So more great work by Naomi, who did deserve it.
Well, she went from nearly crying as Big E was speaking to then turning around and snapping on the fans, which is incredible. Great work by her. All right. Men's Money in the Bank. LA Knight, Seth Rollins, Penta, Solo Sikoa, Andrade, El Grande Americano. There was a lot of build for this on SmackDown. I was able to save some of it for Tuesday's show, but unfortunately the rest has to go now. So let's go through it. I say unfortunately, but it was really entertaining, so it's positive. We get to talk about it. Rollins' crew opened SmackDown with fans serenading, barking, and then chanting OTC and CM Punk all before he spoke. Fickle. He reiterated that winning the briefcase would give him absolute power, and he threatened anyone who dares stand in their way. Then Rollins said he cares about the fans in a way Roman Reigns never did, and Seth will drag us into the future because there's no one who can stop him. Solo Sikoa's crew surprisingly interrupted. Can we just get these groups' names? Like, especially Seth's crew. But why am I saying Solo Sikoa's guys and Seth Rollins' guys? Like, they need group names. Anyway, Sikoa was in the Suge Knight suit for a 3-on-3 standoff, suggesting Braun Breaker was Rollins' Jey Uso and Bronson Reed was the Sami Zayn. He shot at Reed and Paul Heyman for turning their backs, saying he would be the one to grab the power. Rollins said Breaker's the future, unlike Sikoa, plus Reed could squash any of them, and Jacob Fatu isn't about the family, or else he is Solo's bitch. We wound up with Breaker and Fatu face-to-face again, and the situation kind of fizzled. This was not the most action or story-packed segment, but what I did appreciate is that it felt fresh seeing these 6 guys across from one another. This was Rollins at his shit-stirring best, and getting Jacob Braun facing off for the second time, it's a clear tease that something big is coming between them maybe sooner than we expected. I again felt like Mateo and Reed were just kind of big-time third wheels when that really should not be the case. I would have liked to see them stare down each other at least and have commentary go crazy for them the same way they did for Braun and Jacob. But really, this was about previewing the PLE match, and I thought it worked as a big-time segment.
It did, and Solo continues to just look more like a leading man of a group than he ever has before at probably the strangest time he was leading a group.
And in a comedic fashion, which is different. Yeah. So we had Aleister Black against LA Knight. Aleister in a promo package said he kind of respected LA taking advantage of his black mass shot, but thinking more about it, he got screwed. He wanted Knight to prove himself one-on-one without a third man or bent rules. He promised his respect should Knight actually beat him. Knight then cut a promo while incomplete, and I'm in complete control of the crowd. It was basically a match preview, the longest solo mic time he's been given in a while. He also had green gear, which I thought may have been a bit of a tell. Also, Black's entrance was again improved. They used the apron camera during this. Black delivered a ton of strikes and quick kicks. They took a tumble over the top rope, which was Black's third major bump in a couple of weeks. Knight dodged Black mass, hit a couple moves, including the burning hammer with Black rolling outside. Rollins ended the hot match, running in with a blindside stomp on Knight for the disqualification. When he tried another one, Black got in the way, only to get speared to hell by Breakker. Knight then ate a senton from Reed and a spear by Breakker to end it. This had me thinking way differently about Money in the Bank by the time it was over. Rollins' crew, it had made so many enemies on this show across both brands. I figured there would be a concerted effort to prevent him from winning the briefcase. Knight getting leveled on the go-home and Black showing respect before and during the match, I thought those would be tells as well. Beyond that, Black really got over in the latter stages of this match after crickets for his entrance. With some effort, I think they can put him in a strong upper mid-card spot. The reaction he got staring down Rollins, it kind of rekindled their pandemic-era feud. They're on opposite brands, but the crowd reacted to it.
I think you may have something here.
So I don't know what's happening with Aleister Black, but signs seem to be pointing up. But Chris, coming out of this, did you think Knight was more game to actually win Money in the Bank than we thought on the Ultimate Preview?
I mean, I think he was both of our number two choices, right? Other than Rollins, I don't think we felt like anybody else was a realistic chance. Solo, Penta, it felt like Rollins or LA Knight. I just, as much as I love LA Knight and promote him on the show all the time, I don't believe the company's really behind him until I see it. Because he's getting among the biggest pops in the company still. And he's still fantastic on the mic every single time. So it didn't, I mean, like, if you want to say, like, oh, like, look what Rollins is doing. He's getting the big push on the go home, which means he's going to lose on Money in the Bank. So, like, I did think about it, but it didn't change my mind completely.
I'm just saying, I went from like 80-20 Rollins to like 60-40 Rollins. Like, it made me think, well, Seth has beaten up everyone on Raw and everyone on SmackDown. There's enough people that he's affected who aren't even in the match, where if his guys come out, they're going to come down and stop them. Maybe Knight actually will win this thing. Like, it shifted my odds going in, is what I'll say.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Gable on SmackDown put over El Grande Americano being in Money in the Bank, saying he was confident about beating Vikingo. Andrade and Penta both confronted him, speaking Spanish, leading to Gable just saying, see, which was quite funny. Before a confrontation and tag team match was set, where the Luchadors beat the Creed brothers. Really sick spot with Julius leaping off his brother's back to hit Andrade with a pump knee on the top rope. I almost said tightrope. That should be a regular part of their arsenal. That move was sick. Vikingo stopped Gable from tearing off Penta's mask, attacking him into the crowd. Andrade murked the Creeds with his spinning back elbows, and Julius ate a Mexican destroyer to end it. Rollins' crew attacked again for a 3-on-2 with spears, senton stomps, and a tsunami on Penta. It was the second hottest moment on SmackDown, the match and the post-match. Another awesome tag bout involving Penta or Rey Fenix, just not together. Great job building two matches simultaneously. The Creeds worked really hard. They sold incredibly well, and Rollins' crew stood tall again. And I'll also just mention, Paul Heyman cut a promo after the break reminding that they were the future and explaining how everything Rollins promised has come true, including what happened with Reigns and Punk. He used the term Vanguard twice, and it clicked to me like that could easily be the faction name. but just please pick something. Heyman was on fire proclaiming Rollins would be the next champion when Cody and Jay interrupted in succession. We already covered that. I just wanted to mention that it all happened. So, Chris, that takes us to the actual Money in the Bank match. Before that began, Gable introduced a fireball ladder in a backstage promotional segment, telling the Creed brothers to put it somewhere under the ring that Americano could find.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And then Michael Cole tried to gaslight us, not only before the bell, but what felt like during the first 10 minutes of this match with his Americano Gable conspiracy. Luckily, the others, Pat McAfee and Wade Barrett, they called him on his bullshit, but it felt like it took the first third of this match for Cole to get all this out, and it was frustrating. And I'm not even being flippant about this. It actively made for a worse viewing experience, is what I'm trying to say. Rollins got destroyed immediately, given he attacked everyone Friday. Probably should have considered that. Couple huge high risks early. Rollins ate a cliffhanger DDT from Americano onto a ladder. Sikoa was fully in a comedy role during this match. Knight took Samoan Spike as Penta ate a pedigree. Solo got stomped. Americano then put Rollins in an ankle lock above the ladder. Andrade killed him with a leaping sunset flip powerbomb over the top as Penta put Rollins into a leaning ladder with a suplex. Penta then drove Andrade into a perpendicular ladder with a Mexican destroyer and an awesome spot that dented the hardware. He took down Knight with a code red minutes later. Americano stopped him with a German suplex off the ladder, taking down Rollins, Knight, and Sikoa in succession, all with Germans. My stream literally froze as soon as the fireball ladder got introduced, which I think was hysterical. I think it got used as a helicopter. Penta headbutted Americano off the top rope, but stunned himself. Americano loaded the plate ringside the metal plate in his mask. He climbed up the ladder that was attached to the ring post, used another as a bridge, a falling bridge, to the fireball ladder. He ran up that, headbutted Penta off the top. Knight then ran up the same bridge for a massive, somehow perfectly safe back suplex to the side. Came within like 6 inches of another ladder. Rollins respawned, made a slow climb to the top, got thwarted by Andrade, who hung from the briefcase and the rung. Rollins called Breaker and Reed out. Americano and Knight got the shit speared out of them. Reed powerbombed and tsunami'd Andrade, also breaking the main ladder. Jacob Fatu and JC Mateo entered. They saved Sikoa, but Breaker speared JC through the barricade, and Jacob caught Reed for an insane pop-up Samoan drop. Fatu then helped and hugged Sikoa, who had a shit-eating grin on his face. He turned on Solo as he climbed, screaming, "I hate you." I think he forgot the word solo. "I hate you, Solo," which is the whole phrase, but okay, I digress. He hit a jump-up moonsault, and then he rock-bottom, spinning Solo, whatever you want to call it, Sikoa, through a ladder. When Rollins climbed the backup ladder, Knight respawned himself. Rollins countered BFT by throwing Knight into the ladder, hitting a stomp, then he climbed the ladder, grabbed the briefcase, and won in 34 minutes. Considering the CM Punk chants at the end, I actually swerved myself a bit, thinking Punk was going to run out when Rollins was climbing Solo before Knight stopped him. And look, the winner was predictable here. And we had 2 heels take the briefcases in these matches. But this was the exact right booking as we discussed on the Ultimate Preview. I saw people were upset Knight didn't win and Rollins did. Okay, I understand you like Knight, but Rollins made way too much sense as the briefcase holder, given his gimmick and all of his proclamations about holding absolute power. If he does not cash in Monday night, and we'll talk about that later, there are all sorts of people who he can feud with over being cost these cash-in opportunities. Yes, he needed it the least. My preference is for Money in the Bank to help establish new stars, not to give main eventers additional opportunities. But given the champions right now, John Cena and Jey Uso, it wasn't the right year to do something like that. And the story was set for Seth. This was similar to the women's match in that the ultimate finish, the final minute, was not as climactic as you would want. The difference is that the men gave us a fake-out climax with Penta, Americano, Knight, and Rollins, and that was a real, memorable Money in the Bank sequence. The schmaz interference obviously came after that, but there were some major spots and big-time storytelling moments that allowed those interruptions to shine in their own light. It's one thing to do interference for interference. It's another thing when it's telling a story, which is what we got here. Penta was the MVP, Americano a close second. Knight was surprisingly limited offense-wise, and Rollins, again, was in a similar spot to Naomi in that he didn't really have a memorable moment despite being the winner. I probably need them to rethink how the winner is positioned next year and beyond, to put them in a better spot when they win, to have a notable match like a Tiffany Stratton did last year. This was nevertheless an A match at 4.25 stars. A more exciting final minute, more action from Rollins. I may have gone even higher.
Yeah, good match, better than the first. It honestly was probably helped by all the interference because it created some stuff. You had a turn, so to speak, with Jacob Fatu. You had a lot of stuff going on. It's LA in terms, like, I wanted LA Knight to win. Sure, I want him to be the world champion. I'd love for that to happen, but I'm not going to believe it. Rollins, and it was set up by SmackDown ever since WrestleMania, and even at WrestleMania, he's cheating, bending the rules, whatever, just wrecking shop to get to where he wants to go. It's what they did on SmackDown. It's what they did by having Paul Heyman turn on Punk and Roman. Like, that's the whole thing. And so getting Money in the Bank and using that to shortcut his way to winning the world championship makes all the sense in the world. Now, you could say, as we did at WrestleMania, that first night main event should be a number one contenders match, in which case, there you go. But they decided not to kind of go with that. So, yeah, we both picked Rollins coming in. I got some betting lines. They always email them to me. I got them on Friday or Saturday that said Solo was the favorite, which was weird to me, and Rollins was third. To me, this was obvious what was going to happen, and what happened did happen. It was I'm fine with Rollins winning. I think I need something to happen on Monday. If it doesn't, and I feel like this can't be a dragged out Money in the Bank situation, because it wouldn't fit with what Seth Rollins is doing.
Right.
He's wrecking shop and just charging his way to the top. You can't then delay it at that point. He has to charge through and probably win the title Monday, or at least very quickly. So I'm fine with all that. That all made sense. As for the match itself, El Grande Americano and Penta, I think, were both MVPs. The spot that I'm going to remember from this match is El Grande going from outside the ring to up the ladder, like up the two ladders to the ladder, which is a really cool spot. Hadn't seen that before. Credit to Rollins for holding the base of the ladder as it rolled over to make sure he got on there. And yeah, so like, it was good. Going back to the commentary part real quick. I'm kind of annoyed by the Gable Grande talk from commentary because it is distracting, like you said. The other part, Wade Barrett is big LA Knight guy, and he has been the whole time. But like, he's kind of the heel announcer, but then sometimes he's not. And then him and Pat are on the same page there. And so I'm always kind of confused when Wade Barrett is the heel commentator and when he's not.
He's not a heel commentator. That's the key.
I know he's not, but like, a lot of the times he is, and he's defending the actions by heels and stuff like that. So it's just like, it's a little, I don't know, inconsistent or whatever. That's why when it's a two-person booth and when it's him and Tess, it's great. The three of them, I think Wade's not really quite sure where to fit in. Him and McAfee, it's kind of back and forth, but anyway.
I do actually believe, ironically enough, that Corey Graves fits in the three-man booth with McAfee and Cole better than Barrett does, even though Barrett is stronger individually as a color commentator. And yes. I think it's because what you're kind of dancing around, which is he is not in a traditional role. He is not a heel or a babyface. He is a logical, unbiased guy who, I mean, he has his internal biases, but he's not biased towards the babyfaces or the heels. He likes who he likes. He respects who he respects. And he's someone who almost approaches it where, as a wrestler, he was a heel. So he respects and appreciates when heels do smart things and when their logic is sound, but he's not a bad person as a commentator. So he likes the babyfaces to succeed. That's the way I kind of see him. And I understand your perspective where in a situation like this, in a three-man booth, you probably need defined roles where Pat's the babyface and Wade's the heel. And it just makes it easier.
And Corey Graves does a good job of taking the heel
He does.
commentator role many times.
Now,
one other thought.
Well, let me address Knight though, and then we'll kind of keep going here. Look, he's in a situation right now where he's forever the bridesmaid, never the bride, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to get my hopes up, but just a guess. If plans don't change for one reason or another, I could see this being a tease for him to win the briefcase in his 4th try next year. They made third-time experience a notable part of the build for this match. He said it, commentary said it. They talked about it multiple times. To pay it off immediately would not be nearly as effective as if you actually build it for a year, similar to what they did with Sheamus and the Intercontinental Championship. For these guys who are on the other side of 40, and Sheamus, I could be wrong, I think he's closer to 50, but there's only so many storylines left for them to achieve. For Sheamus, it's the Intercontinental Championship. He does not need to be in the main event. LA Knight's already won mid-card titles. The only thing left for him is to get that one WWE or World Heavyweight Championship run. And yes, something we forgot to mention on the Ultimate Preview, but you did a couple weeks ago, was this was LA and LA. And that would have worked. And perhaps if they would have promoted it a little bit stronger in that manner, then that could have been the direction they go. But Rollins was the right call, given the current champions and the expected booking in which you need his gimmick to do in 2025, ideally with the briefcase. Knight really wasn't the right person this year, but I do feel like, and again, I'm not trying to set up everyone for disappointment. I do feel like they set the stage for him to get in a 4th time and win it next year.
What do you think about this? LA Knight, Seth Rollins cashes in on Jay. We do LA Knight versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam after LA Knight wins King of the Ring. Not necessarily, he wouldn't probably win it at SummerSlam because it'd be such a quick turnaround. But I'm just trying to think of other places where it would fit.
No.
LA Knight, he has been so much more over than anybody in the company has ever expected pretty much his entire run. He has said, he came up, the Dupree stuff, and then he was LA Knight, and he was still over, and they didn't expect him to be. He got his way into that Saudi Arabia match with Roman and stuff like that, just sheer by being over. And 3 years later, however long it's been, he's still over. Mm-hmm. He's still getting some of the biggest pops. He's still one of the best guys on the mic. And I don't think he's in their plans, but he's making it hard to stay out of their plans. And so you hope he needs a world title run. We would hope at some point, but that's also the exact same story they're doing with Sami Zayn, who's 40 years old, So it's how do you can't give everybody their world title.
That's the thing. 40. And people need to remember that not everyone gets to be world champion. I know that fans like to chant, you deserve it or he deserves it, whatever the case. And yeah, a lot of people maybe deserve that opportunity, but it doesn't mean you always get it, man. It's not a charity. It's a promotion. And yes, I understand the idea. There's 2 world championships. How can you not put one of them on one of the people who's the most over in the entire company? Well, that's why Jey Uso won the title. For the fans out there, would you trade this Jey Uso run for LA Knight? Some would. Many wouldn't.
I would.
Many wouldn't, though. Jay's arguably the most over babyface in the entire company right now, to a level that is way higher than even LA Knight at his peak. That's just the truth. Those are facts.
Agree.
Okay. So would it be nice for Knight to get a win? Yes. Do 2025 storylines when John Cena is one champion and Seth Rollins seemingly is going to become the other, and your matches for WrestleMania next year, Cena won't be there, obviously, but it very well might be potentially, I'm just saying, Cody Rhodes and The Rock and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, or maybe CM Punk's involved in there. Do you get LA Knight a championship run during Cena's final run, or when you're trying to establish Rollins in this new group? I just don't think you can do it. So circumstances are circumstances. Maybe he's able to get it. I think next year is a legitimate possibility. It's in New Orleans. Something else that was said, by the way, on commentary before this match, and I'm literally putting this together right now as I'm saying this. I forgot who it was on commentary. They said LA, Los Angeles. Someone on commentary under their breath said, oh, I thought that was Louisiana.
That was Cole.
So next year's Money in the Bank, where is it, Chris? New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
Because it's not WrestleMania.
It's not WrestleMania. And we'll talk more about that on Tuesday as well. Before we get to the Jay and Gunther of it all really quick, I'd have saved the Fatu turn on Sikoa for SmackDown on Friday. I know Money in the Bank is a bigger stage. I'm not sure this match needed it. Solo certainly didn't require an excuse to not win. I probably would have had Fatu try to help but fail. Sikoa lashes out at him a bit on Friday, and then you have Jacob turn. That's just my personal preference. And because this happened at Money in the Bank, I gotta believe that the Tongans, specifically Tama Tonga, is near a return. Otherwise, Sikoa and Mateo together is extremely thin. So maybe Solo's the one to beat Jacob for the title at SummerSlam. Those guys come back and help him. Then Jacob gets to win it back. I'm not totally sure what's going to happen here. I just thought it was kind of ham-fisted in a little bit to this match when it could have totally stood on its own as like a main event segment for SmackDown.
Yeah, because it got overshadowed by
exactly
who won the match. So it's instantly just not the biggest thing that happened. I had one last thought. A Grande Americano.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting over. And I don't.
Of course he is.
No.
He's a legendary luchador. Finally making it in WWE. Why wouldn't he get over?
From the Gulf of America again. Don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Just a thought I'm having moving forward.
That's fair.
Really just a thought.
It's a completely legitimate thought to have. There's no question about it. So let's get to the Jay and Gunther of it all. So they have the World Heavyweight Championship rematch Monday on Raw. Rollins is now the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. I'll also mention Jay sold injuries immediately after the match, and he continued selling them on the post-show. The most predictable, most obvious, and most telegraphed move, because they announced this 3 weeks ago, that this match was happening on Raw immediately after Money in the Bank, and we all expected Rollins to win the briefcase. So by far, the most telegraphed thing you could possibly do would be Rollins cashing in and probably pinning Jay and winning the World Heavyweight Championship, costing Gunther the opportunity on this show. The question, of course, is whether we believe that's going to happen. And I kind of just want to take this from the perspective of, yes, sometimes predictable things are good, but there is also something to be said for things happening that are way, way, way too predictable. And this to me feels like it's so predictable that it's not going to happen. So I believe there's a Rollins cash-in attempt. It gets thwarted by CM Punk and Sami Zayn, maybe someone else. They take out, Reed and Breaker, and Jay figures out a way to retain. The fake out cash-in is what ends up costing Gunther. And that's why Jay's able to retain. It takes him out of contendership for the title, allows Jay to move on, and then you get the Jay and Rollins of it all going forward. So that's where I stand right now, Chris. Jay retains the title on Raw, even though every single thing we are seeing on television is telling us otherwise.
I think you're right that that's probably what's going to happen. And I understand it a bit, but I kind of just want Seth to be the champ and just go,
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very clearly where we're going. So I kind of just want to get there and then start the next story, whatever it is. But no CM Punk on this show. CM Punk costing him just like he cost Drew McIntyre a year ago makes a lot of sense. I'd put it at like 50-50. I mean, Rollins has been dominant since WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's coming out on the top of every segment. He's winning Money in the Bank. Like maybe it just continues all the way to the belt,
which is kind of refreshing, right? Like Cena's been this bad guy, right? But every single time he's on TV, except for the go home for this show, he eats a crossroads or a finisher, an RKO, and he's laid out. And he looks pathetic every single time. Rollins and his crew, to this point, their armor is not dented at all.
Right.
It's kind of fresh. So I'm with you. I kind of want it to happen just to get it over with, but I'm 50-50 going in. My lean, though, is Jay retaining. Give me a lean.
They've just set it up so easily to excuse Jay losing.
It's just so blatant, though. I mean, it's
he's wrestled on Saturday. He's injured. They talked about it in the post show.
But Chris, you want a Money in the Bank cash-in to be like somewhat of a surprise when it happens.
Oh, I want them all to be a surprise when it happens.
But I'm saying, like, you don't want it to be
bigger than Seth Rollins himself.
I'm just saying you don't want it to be so telegraphed that like we thought this a month ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I don't know. I'm intrigued. The problem is it's one of those WWE situations where we're just waiting for the end of the match. So like when Luther and Jay start, we're all going to be like, well, we know this is going to end weird, so we'll wait till it starts to get weird.
Yeah, starts at like 10:15, and we're like, okay, get us to 10:28. That way we can see what happens. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm with you. You're right. All right, let's move to the Intercontinental Championship. Lyra Valkyria against Becky Lynch. Bex can never challenge Lyra for the title again if she loses, but if she wins, Valkyria must raise her arm just as she did previously in NXT. Becky tried to attack during the introductions. Lyra caught her. Lynch had black pants, by the way, and a white shirt with, I presume, ruse drawings on them, which I thought was a really cool look, like a cool mom-daughter type of deal. They got loud dual chants with Valkyria countering manhandle slam early. Lyra hit a nice gut-wrench powerbomb. She had a terrific sell on a DDT. Then she landed a great superplex and fisherman's suplex chaser. Lyra countered an armbar into a single leg crab with a foot on the neck. And then she hit a flying leg drop off the announce table as Lynch was draped over the barricade. Becky countered a high risk with a catch powerbomb. Despite being hype all match, fans still chanted, "We want truth" for 3 seconds. Lynch hit an avalanche manhandle slam off the ropes for a huge false finish. So she rammed Valkyria into the post and hit another manhandle slam ringside. Lyra played possum, hitting Nightwing in the same spot for a double 9.5 count. Back inside, they had a great counter sequence around the ropes. Lynch kicked out. Valkyria's neck got hung in the ropes before another set of counters, where Becky grabbed the tights on replay and she won the Intercontinental Championship. Bex forced Lyra to raise her arm not once, but to all 4 sides of the ring. She did that begrudgingly. Lynch then demanded she actually strap her up with the title, which was not part of the stipulation, but Lyra did it anyway because when she locked it in, she delivered a huge German suplex and Nightwing to stand tall over her rival. Lyra was as protected and elevated as you could possibly be in a loss. She took a super finisher inside, kicked out. A regular finisher ringside, didn't lose like that. Then she lost via cheating in a 50-50 scenario. She fulfilled the stipulation like a babyface. And then she was given her ability to stand tall despite not coming out on top of the match. This was perfectly booked with the right winner as far as I was concerned. Slightly surprised we didn't get a Bayley return in this spot. I could see it happening Monday night, setting up Lynch's challenger for Evolution with a triple threat at SummerSlam. The work here was crisp. It built directly on their prior matches. Lyra looked as fluid as ever. Becky has knocked off whatever rush she had since returning. Strapping her up as the second ever Intercontinental Champion only further elevates the title. And I'm quite sure Lyra is going to win it back before the year is out. Even if not, her initial reign went 146 days, which is nothing to sneeze at. And ironically, she won and lost the title in California. 4.25 stars A. Tough to want anything more out of this as a non-main event. And I'm already looking forward to seeing what's next because neither of them have beaten the other with their actual finishers on the main roster. Both cases were trap pinning combinations.
Yes. Really good match, as you would expect. I think we both predicted Bayley would get involved here, and she did not. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, I guess I'm not surprised, but it does set up what are these two going to do next? Do we run it back or do we take a break on that? I'm not really sure. This is nitpicking, but I think the way I might have done the Lyra has. So I don't love when someone loses, but they stand tall. And I especially don't love it with a title change. Now, Becky can get out there the next day and talk and everything's great. But winning the title, but being laid flat, I was like, I want the title to be kind of like the biggest thing there. But if I was going to, one nitpick I would have changed, I would have had Lyra essentially do that stuff to Becky first, beat her up, and then with her limp body, just like lift her arm up and like that be it. Just kind of like a little more emphatic. But that's just being nitpicking. I thought everything they did was fine. Great match as you would expect. And it was, again, everything we thought it would be. Really good stuff.
Quick note regarding the women. It was announced later in the show, Nikki Bella is going to be on Raw this Monday night. Getting Over was told that she will be returning to the ring at WWE Evolution.
Oh.
Yeah. Didn't have a chance to do a news update on buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. I was going to publish it on Monday. I had updates on 2 particular items. One of them was Nikki Bella. The other was The Miz. Both of those came out Sunday. So, I'm still going to do the news update. But nevertheless, it was kind of spoiled here. Speaking of, I'll just go ahead and promote it now. Please remember that here at the Getting Over Wrestling podcast,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show. And you also get exclusive news analysis posts every week, generally on Friday. This week, we decided to do it Monday, and it cost us. Nevertheless, please support us. It's a free show. It's an ad-free show. Hit us up at buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We would greatly appreciate it. There was one more match on this Money in the Bank card, unscheduled, entering the day. The Men's Intercontinental Championship, Dominic Mysterio defending against Octagon Jr. Now, this was set up during Worlds Collide. Dominic cut a promo after the opening match, calling Rey Mysterio a deadbeat and a piece of trash who should not be worshipped. Octagon Jr., who was part of the winning team in that match, confronted, yanked Dom over a barricade for a beating and a pull-apart brawl, with Dom becoming so upset, he offered this match. That filled the gap of the 5th match we were missing. The response to Dom at this show was fantastic, and the setup for the match was arguably hotter than the actual match that preceded it on that show. In terms of Money in the Bank, Dom hit a Michinoku driver, missed a 619, eating a slingshot tornillo and a twisting fisherman's neckbreaker. Liv distracted. He had the Octagon, had all the momentum. Dom hit a 619 and frog splash, retained the title. This was way too short at 5 minutes. Makes me wonder whether it was actually planned or added late, because there was criticism over there only being 4 matches on this card. This could have used at least 5 more minutes. Dom could have taunted some of the luchadors ringside. I don't even know how to grade this because it was so short. So 3 stars B-. It was a nice sprint. Octagon did well for himself and people seemed interested in him, but it was really a bunch of nothing.
Here's my question. So there is a Octagon Jr.
Yes.
There is a Pentagon Jr.
Yes.
Who we know as Penta now. Does that imply there is a Hexagon Jr.
There is
in
not.
between?
There is not. It's just
is there a dodecahedron Jr.?
No, there is not.
Is there a square Jr.? I don't know. Lots of shapes.
There's not a polygon. There's not a triangle. No. So the long and short of it, and you can Google this and research it yourself and get all the details. Octagon existed as a babyface. They created Pentagon as a heel, and it spurned from there. And they have the same mask because I believe the original Pentagon won the mask from the original Octagon. They have the same logo, similar masks, so on and so forth. You can Google it. It's detailed. It's actually pretty interesting. But that is why there's an Octagon and a Pentagon.
Good to know.
Okay. So that wraps up our instant analysis for WWE Money in the Bank. A reminder, we still have the instant analysis for WWE AAA Worlds Collide coming up momentarily. But before we get to that, we need to go over our pre-show expectation grades and our final grades for Money in the Bank. First, a reminder, Vintage and the Silver King, we agreed on our pre-show expectation grade. We said it was going to be a 92 out of 100 in A-. All of you are getting overheads. You had the opportunity to vote on social media. Your responses came in 43% in the A range, 52.3% B+ to B, 4.7% B- to C, and 0% C or lower. That averages out to a 90.89 out of 100, which rounds up to a 91. So, Chris, everyone was on the same plane in terms of it being an A- show coming in. But of course, you and I were actually slightly higher than the listeners, which is a rarity. As always, when we give our post-show grades, you get the opportunity to go first. Chris, what was your final grade for WWE Money in the Bank?
Man, I'm in a tough spot here because normally what's most important to me is did stuff that happened matter? And boy, did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we got 2 Money in the Bank winners. We got a title change with the Women's Intercontinental title. And we got an R-Truth return. That's all really, really notable, important stuff. But none of the wrestling really, jumped out to me. The women's match was probably the best match of the show. The tag match was probably the most entertaining. The Logan Paul moonsault spot was nuts. There were some good spots here and there, but I was not enthralled by the wrestling that was on my screen. So I'm gonna go A minus, but I'm gonna go with a 90. I was right between B plus A minus, but because stuff happened that mattered, I'm gonna bump that up to the A minus. So a 90.
So what I'm realizing right now is, for the first time ever, I messed up our post-show poll, because the categories that I listed were A plus to A minus to B plus, B minus to C. So I completely skipped over B, which I think a lot of people might have voted, right? And then C or lower as the fourth category. So I screwed it up. I can only calculate it based on what all the listeners voted for based on these categories. So I'm kind of hamstrung here. But the way this came in was 45.7% A plus to A, 43.9% A minus to B plus. That's over 89% of the respondents thought it was a B plus or better. So that doesn't maybe matter that I screwed up the B, but regardless, 8.5% B minus to C plus, and then 1.8% C or lower. That averages out to a 91.7, a 92 out of 100, the highest A minus. So they and you are getting overheads, our listeners, and you, Vintage Chris Vanini, you are aligned that it was an A minus show, but obviously flipped in terms of your level of enjoyment. In terms of they have a 92 and you're at a 90. I kind of fall where you do in that, first of all, the men's Intercontinental Championship match was a throwaway, so doesn't even matter. It's a 4-match card, really. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria did exactly what I expected. Expectations were high. They met them. It was a quality match. We got a title change. Boom. So that was great. The men's Money in the Bank, I would say it also met my expectations just because it delivered quality wrestling. It wasn't anything spectacular, but I didn't think it was going to be given the competitors who were in the match. We got the right winner. Certainly if Knight had won, the crowd would have gone crazy. It would have been a moment and that would have been awesome. But Rollins needed to win that match, as we discussed. I saw a lot of people were angry that Rollins won. I don't understand that sentiment. He was the right person to win. The women's match under-delivered to expectation. Wrestling-wise, but not with the winner. Naomi was the right person to win. It was just difficult to kind of have her not get much in the match and then be the person who prevailed. And also, for a loaded roster in this match, to not put on a straight-up banger like we expected. So that was the lone match that actually fell below expectations. And then I gotta say, the main event with, Logan Paul and, John Cena teaming, getting the heat that we expected, that happened. Cody and Jey Uso, babyface response, that happened. The match at first was exactly what I expected. I was like, man, this is slow and plodding, and this really is not hitting. But then it's like someone turned a nozzle or something, opened shit up, and the second half was great. I mean, it was really exciting from a spot standpoint, not a wrestling standpoint, but a spot standpoint. And then you had R-Truth coming over the top, and that was awesome. So I have one thing that over-delivered, one thing that under-delivered, and a couple of things that met expectation. So I'm going to split the difference between you and the listeners. I'm going to say it was a 91 out of 100, slightly below what I expected for this show, but it was a blast to watch. And as is generally the case with WWE Premium Live events, occasionally you get absolute banger matches, right? But they are not trying to deliver, let's just say, what their main competitor is, which is how many quality matches can we put on the card. In many cases, not all cases, but in many cases, storylines be damned. It doesn't matter how good the storytelling is coming in. Sometimes it's great for them. Sometimes it's not. With WWE, the storytelling for all of these matches, the victors and the way it moves stories forward, the individual elements like the Jacob Fatu turn on Solo Sikoa, that is just as important to get us to be interested in Raw on Monday night and SmackDown on Friday as it is having quality matches. So that's why I'm at a 91 out of 100. We're all in agreement. It was an A- show, different, strokes for different folks, but this definitely succeeded. And it was relatively impressive, Chris. I'll end on this. We've been talking about this. WWE is shoving so many special events into such a small window. At some point, something really needs to fall drastically below expectations. And I don't necessarily think that's happened. There have been some things that have been better than we expected, some things that have fallen short, but nothing that's been that far away from the way we've expected it to go. And Money in the Bank, I thought it lived up to what fans wanted. And let me also end on this. For a 4-match card, to have those 2 Money in the Bank matches combine to last an hour, that's not counting entrances or any other bullshit, that's bell to bell. They went an hour this year, when a year ago, they went 32 minutes. If you're going to give us a 4-match card, that's exactly what you needed to do, and WWE did it.
I think mostly when you have so many shows, you're going to have important things happen. Frankly, if they don't decide to bring R-Truth back, on short notice, presumably, then our grades for the show are probably down a third or whatever.
Oh yeah, we're in B territory. Yeah, B territory.
Yeah, so nothing really mattered on Saturday night's main event, if I don't recall. I think I gave that like a B or a B plus. So you gotta keep coming up with something new and fresh, and they were able to this time, only because they had messed up in the first place by not renewing R-Truth. So can they keep this up? Maybe, I don't know, but they did a better job than they did 2 weeks ago. We'll see in whenever the next one is.
I think we're 3 weeks away from Night of Champions, which will include the finals for King and Queen of the Ring. We will discuss King and Queen of the Ring, WrestleMania, Naomi's hair color, and a couple other newsy items on episode 750 of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, when vintage Chris Vanini will return and pay off his bet. That is coming on Tuesday. Now, Chris, Silver King needs to transition and go do an instant analysis now for WWE and AAA Worlds Collide on this same show. Do you have any final words on Money in the Bank before I let you go?
No, I didn't catch all of Worlds Collide, except for the Chad Gable match, which was incredible, and you will get into that in detail.
Yeah, extremely excited to discuss that right now. So, Chris, thank you for joining us tonight. We will see you on Tuesday, episode 750 of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And that now allows the Silver King to dive into the WWE AAA Worlds Collide instant analysis. Rey Mysterio narrated the opening video package, which was obviously tremendous, made the show feel like a huge deal. Corey Graves led play-by-play with Conan doing color commentary. That was quite something. Graves was arguably the MVP of the show. He worked his ass off. Conan was rather terrible, but it was kind of necessary to have him just because of his knowledge of the AAA wrestlers. All the executives were in the ring for national anthems, with Blue Demon Jr. notably carrying an urn with the remains of Antonio Pena, the AAA founder. The ropes and turnbuckles were the colors of the Mexican flag, and the mat was white with both logos. The coolest part was the Titantron, which was stacked in levels like an Aztec temple. I thought that was way cooler of a visual element than I expected. Ray also opened the show with a promo expressing pride over this evolution of Lucha Libre, and Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan were ringside, as I discussed earlier, looking disinterested, like WWE was forcing them to be there, but of course we knew it was all about a segment on the show. So let's start with the main event, the AAA Mega Championship, Hijo del Vikingo against Chad Gable. Gable backstage said the luchadors might have an issue with him, but the Mexican people love and embrace him adapting their culture. And they also love El Grande Americano, who was going to win Money in the Bank. Of course, we knew Americano would not do that. Vikingo later put Gable over as a master of American-style wrestling, but promised a successful defense. There were dueling tape promos before the bout, with Vikingo laughing that Gable believes he represents Lucha Libre when he does headlocks, and Vikingo makes magic in the air. He said Gable has no honor, and Lucha Libre is not something you imitate, but something you respect. My only real disappointment this whole show was Vikingo's entrance. It was lacking. He has major star power. He's the champion. And he just felt like another dude coming out to the ring. That was a big mistake by WWE. Gable got surprisingly loud dual chants after the bell. Vikingo started by actually chain wrestling Gable, which was surprising. The first insane move was a springboard 540 to a standing Gable ringside. Gable got knees up on a running shooting star press off the ring apron, later hit a German suplex bridge. Vikingo landed an anti-air codebreaker counter to a diving headbutt and a hanging double stomp 3/4 of the way down the ropes. Vikingo's next absurdity was an outside-in Phoenix splash for a false finish. Gable answered with a perfect cliffhanger DDT and a backwards avalanche Liger bomb off the ropes. I yelled out loud. I thought he pile drove him at first, but it wasn't. It was a Liger bomb, thankfully. Vikingo then did a flying Mexican destroyer off the ring post. Gable put Vikingo through a ringside table with a sky-high moonsault for a double 9 count. Gable put in a deep ankle lock, but when Vikingo got out of that and then fully flipped out of a German suplex, he appeared lame on his leg. He still hit a springboard flying Poison Rana and then a 630 to retain the AAA Mega Championship. Simply an incredible match. Vikingo became a megastar to the broader WWE audience. Gable established himself as a main eventer, as he should have been 5 years ago. I shouldn't say main eventer, main event caliber wrestler. This didn't just meet my expectations, it exceeded them. I figured WWE would be hard-pressed to put on a better match during Money in the Bank once this was over, and spoiler alert, they did not. This was the match of the entire day. I wondered watching live whether El Grande Americano would have energy for that match, watching his amigo compete to such a degree here. He seemed okay, obviously, on that show. Interestingly, the only elements that dragged this match down a little bit were commentary. Not Graves, he was awesome, but Conan was so low energy. And the crowd, it popped huge for all the big spots. It didn't seem to maintain consistent heat for the duration. Probably the greatest compliment I can give Gable is that it actually felt like I was watching Kurt Angle at times. And I came out of this hoping this was just the first in a long-time rivalry because these guys were incredible together. There were tons of spots, but we also got consistent story both before and during the match. This was right up there with that Kenny Omega match on AEW Dynamite when Vikingo made his United States television debut. 4.75 stars, A+, a no doubt match of the year contender. I may elevate this on second watch. I might come down a little bit as well, but wherever you are between 4.5 and 5, this was an absolute, unabashed, unquestionable. I'm looking for the sound drop. There's no question. This right here was a
Banger.
The NXT North American Championship was on the line. Ethan Page defending against Javon Evans, Laredo Kid, and Rey Fenix in a fatal 4-way. Page did a Hurricanrana early, really fun spot. Laredo landed like a froggy moonsault. I've never really seen that. Before Fenix hit a tope tornillo. Fans chanted, "We want tables," with Conan basically pointing out that it was a stupid chant given they were in a 4-way match. Page did a rare splash and pull-up power slam for a broken fall. Laredo came back with a Spanish Fly or Destroyer-style spike DDT on Fenix, which was absolutely sick. Evans did a massive tope crossbody of Page over the Spanish announce table. Then he tried a springboard flip-over kick on Laredo in a Tree of Woe on the opposite turnbuckle. I'm not sure if he landed it, but he came close at least. Springboard cutter on Fenix for a broken fall. Phoenix took Page out with Adios Amigo, and then he hit Misawa's Emerald Flosion on Evans. Fans briefly chanted, "We want truth" for 3 seconds. After Phoenix and Laredo landed Spanish Fly, Page hit Ego's Edge for a fall broken by Javon's Frog Splash. The finish came fast. Page threw Laredo in the way of Evans' springboard cutter. Then he tossed Javon out of the ring into Phoenix, Tope Suicida style. He hit Twisted Grin on Laredo and retained the title. The finish could not have been executed any better. Page was the appropriate winner if Phoenix was not going to do a stint in NXT, which he really should not. And he got consistent heat during this match as not only the only clear heel, but also kind of the gringo antagonist. I figured this would be borderline A-A. That was probably the least traditional Lucha Libre bout on the show, despite having 2 luchadors in it. And it basically lived up to that. It was the most entertaining match at the time it concluded. The finish put this right over the top for me at 4.25 stars A. Phoenix was certainly the MVP by a significant margin, actually. This was his best WWE match to date, but Javon was up there with him. Laredo acquitted himself nicely. Laredo acquitted himself nicely. And like I said, Page was absolutely perfect in his role. His run in WWE and NXT right now, he is knocking it out of the park. Legado del Fantasma fought Hijo did Dr. Wagner Jr., Pagano, and Psycho Clown. Legado met to go over their plan on SmackDown. Santos Escobar said they would establish in front of their family, homeland, and the world that they rule Lucha Libre. This was entirely in Spanish. It added a lot of gravitas to their words. Escobar gave a brief explanation of the opponents as well. Most notable was that Berto appeared completely bought in, which flew in the face of what we discussed on the preview show Thursday. But it's now been a month that Legado has been involved in meaningful segments and matches. The last 2 out-of-arena videos, they've been their best stuff on the main roster so far. So coming into this, after the Ultimate Preview, I thought, maybe I got this wrong. And let's go ahead and discuss what happened in the match. Legado backstage boasted about owning Lucha Libre. Berto was the only one wearing the claw marks of his grandfather. The AAA side got the chance to cut tape promos as well, saying they would not allow Legado to take Lucha Libre from them. And I believe Psycho Clown pointed out that he was in the match where Hijo del Fantasma lost his mask before going to WWE. That, of course, is Santos Escobar. Legado came out in camouflage with WWE logos. They refused to shake hands. Clown did a double German suplex on Los Garza and a suicida through the turnbuckles on Escobar. Pagano botched like 3 times in a row before a tope suicida landed flat on the floor as Escobar tackled Berto, saving him from contact. Clown also hit a code red before the faces hit stereo topes, including a tornillo from Clown on Escobar. Santos ate a big Falcon Arrow from Wagner for a broken fall. Garza took him down with their finisher on the ropes, but Clown murked Berto with a psycho driver, basically an air raid crash on the ring apron. Clown caught Angel with a Liger Bomb. Pagano hit Berto with a flying codebreaker. Escobar took Wagner off the top with a Hurricanrana, and after some counters, he hit the Phantom Driver for the 1-2-3. Pleasant surprise here with Legado going over. Both of the 6-man matches were counter to my expectations, but it's obviously sensible why, especially if Legado is going to wind up wrestling Triple Mania in August. That's basically AAA's WrestleMania show. I'm not sure what that card is going to look like, but after this match, it sure seems like they're going to be there. Wagner and Psycho Clown were both standouts from the AAA side. Pagano, I don't know much about him. He basically seems washed from all the bumps he's taken. Apparently he's hardcore. I did have higher expectations than the match delivered, but it was the best of the undercard by a significant margin, 3.75 stars B+. The truth is, this probably would have been better as Escobar Wagner one-on-one because they cooked the most out of the 6 involved here, and maybe we will get that sooner than later. Moving to Stephanie Vaquer and Lola Vice against Chick Tormenta and Dalis, which is how you say her name. I got that wrong previously. This was second on the card. The pop for Vaquer and the La Primera chants were significant compared to the other 3. I do need to quickly note, I love the part of her Titantron where the horns grow, but I hate how the screen goes to black and then the entrance starts. I wish it just transitioned directly into her theme and the Tron, but I digress. Lola hit 4 hip attacks, but largely got her ass kicked until Stephanie got the hot tag and wrecked shop. She and Lola did stereo devil's kisses with the crowd basically screaming, not yelling, screaming Booker T's during it. Vaquer then hit SVB for the win in about 10 minutes. The fans were crazy hot for the finish, and understandably so.
It should have been me. It should have been me.
But I found the match itself to be largely mediocre. Lola was not necessarily the best or most experienced partner to sell for Los Luchadores, and the other side worked well, but really wasn't much excitement. Vaquer was obviously the star. She carried the other 3 in the overall match. I went 2.75 stars and a C+. And lastly, Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Lince Dorado fought Octagon Jr., Aerostar, and Mr. Iguana. This opened the show with Dorado in for Joaquin Wilde, who got concussed before Raw on Monday night. He and Iguana did a whole Lynx Lizard deal, which was decently fun. There was a triple tope spot where Dorado forgot to stand up and catch, so Octagon just ate shit landing on his back. Not great. Iguana and Del Toro had a nice La Magistral counterfall sequence. Dorado stomped, elbow dropped, and hit a Spanish fly on La Yesca, which I thought was named Jessica, so I got that wrong too. But he got major heat. It was pretty funny. Dragon did a hanging double stomp and a big tope. Dorado did a top rope hurricanrana. Del Toro did a tightrope shotgun dropkick and Escalera tornillo ringside. Dragon then did a leaping inside-out hurricanrana over the ropes before it ended with Octagon hitting basically a moonsault World's Strongest Slam for the 1-2-3. Started slow, was rather clunky, alternating smooth sequences with cooldown spots. Once they hit the 4th gear, though, this was a runaway train to the finish. There was a lot of love for Del Toro on commentary. He was probably the MVP of the match, but we've seen him do some of that stuff over the last year. So it wasn't as astounding to me as some others suggested. Ultimately, the spots carried the bout, which was a lot of fun, but nothing that stood out hugely. Well, other than the fact that Dorado did a Spanish fly onto a stuffed iguana, which I just may never forget. I laughed out loud there. Mr. Iguana was the star, 3.5 stars. B, I forgot to mention earlier that Iguana got a huge pop when he was shown in the crowd at Money in the Bank, more so than even Vikingo. Amigo is over like Rover, and WWE is already selling a t-shirt for him. Ironically enough, two of the biggest pops across both of these shows were R-Truth and Mr. Iguana. That's just what happened in 2025. So that wraps up the instant analysis for WWE AAA Worlds Collide. Just like we did with Money in the Bank, we're going to go over our pre-show expectation grades and our final grades for the show. My pre-show grade was an 86 out of 100, a B. I thought it would be good, a decent showcase of both brands, but ultimately nothing to write home about. All of you listeners are getting overheads. You voted on Twitter at Getting Overcast. Your votes were 16% in the A range, 79% B plus to B, 5% B minus to C plus, and 0% C or lower. That averaged out to an 87.8 or an 88, a B plus. So you were more optimistic about the show than I was. This was an extremely enjoyable show from start to finish. The white mat, the entire ringside area being void of advertising, it was so refreshing compared to what we see 2 to 3 times per week and what we saw later Saturday night. Graves probably put on the biggest carry job of the entire year in or out of the ring on commentary with Conan. The AAA luchadors went over appropriately in the opener and the main event. If you were a WWE fan who had never seen any of them before, you were given enough reason to pay attention, even if you choose not to watch every event, which I certainly will not. Developing a match for Money in the Bank, it was a cool bonus. And really, this just exceeded my expectations in every way as an event, even if each match individually did not. So in terms of all of your votes post-show, you went 58% A plus to A, which I thought was relatively shocking, if I'm being honest. 36% A minus to B plus, 5% B to B minus, 1% C plus or lower. The math was tough on this one because it's tough to know whether a voter wants like 98% A plus or 94 A in the same category. But the best average I could come up with for all of you was a 93.689, which averages out to a 94 and an A. That's 8 points above my expectation, 6 points above your expectation. Probably one of the largest margins of differential that we have seen since we've done these polls. And I am close to you all for my personal grade. I'm just not there. The main event was incredible. The North American title match was fantastic. The other 3 matches were varying levels of fun, but in totality, especially given the commentary issues, this is not a show where I can really give it a flat A grade, but I'm at a 92 out of 100, the highest A minus, 6 points beyond my expectation. That's significant. And head to head with Money in the Bank, even though I loved a lot of what happened later Saturday night, it was probably the better show start to finish just because it was so different and intriguing, and we got to see something unique. And in WWE in 2025, it is rare that you actually see something unique. So that wraps up this double instant analysis edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. I obviously want to thank Vintage Chris Vanini for joining us for the Money in the Bank portion. I'm also realizing as we're on the way out of this show, I forgot to do this 2 weeks ago. I forgot to do it last week. I forgot to do it Tuesday during the Ultimate Preview. And I even forgot tonight to ask.
Isn't this the Money in the Bank edition?
It was, Matt. It was indeed the Money in the Bank edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. That's my bad. I won't forget in 2026. On the way out, let me hit you with some reminders. First, that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we'll read it live right here on the show. But if you're listening to us on Spotify, please hit that 5 stars. It means so much to us. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube at Getting Overcast. You get full-length audio, full-length video interviews, and old video interview clips, all on YouTube at Getting Overcast. Follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can send in questions and comments for the show. We will read them during our second looks at Money in the Bank on Tuesday and Worlds Collide on Thursday. So please keep sending in your questions and comments. We will get to them, I promise. You also on Twitter at Getting Overcast get to vote in our pre and post show polls that we just explained 4 different times on this episode. And lastly, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. That is it for tonight. We will be back on Tuesday with episode 750 of the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King Adam Silverstein signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.